The Democratic Alliance believes that whoever is elected at the party's federal congress at the weekend could become the country's next president, but only if the DA manages to oust the ANC government next year. The party is preparing for its two-day congress in Midrand, where more than 2,000 delegates will discuss resolutions and policy proposals.
The stage is set for the Democratic Alliance's Federal Congress this weekend. The party has labelled it as a game changer as it prepares for the 2024 general elections. It has set its sights on the highest office in the land.
So that's why I say this Congress is important, because the leader that is elected very likely to be the presidential candidate, and with the ruling party set to plummet by such a large percentage, there's a lot that can happen.
The party's online voting system will be used by delegates to cast their ballots for their preferred candidates. Federal leader contender Dr. Mpho Phalatse has raised concerns in a video to delegates about the credibility and secrecy of the election system.
So we use OpenVote, and we have been using OpenVote for the last 3 or 4 years. We've used it in previous federal congresses. We've used it as recently as in the Eastern Cape at a provincial congress. It's been used in other congresses. And indeed, it's been used in various caucuses around the country to conduct elections, including the city of Johannesburg. So we believe it's a proven system within the DA. It's been used for a number of years, as I said. In all those years, we have never once had a query or dispute about the integrity of the system and the secrecy of the ballot.
The party says it will also use its Congress as an opportunity to self-introspect, especially on the issue of coalitions. Recently, the party lost the Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni metros. Delegates will further deliberate on the resolutions and amendments to its constitution. Natasha Peer, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, leader John Steenhuisen is set to battle it out for top position with Mpho Phalatse and Lungile Phenyane. South Africa's second largest political party, the DA, will this weekend elect new leadership as it prepares for the 2024 general elections. The two-day Congress will kick off at the Gallagher Convention Centre in Midrand tomorrow. We're joined by Unisa Department of Political Sciences, Professor Dirk Kotze. Professor, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and a warm welcome to The Full View and SABC News. What's likely to happen tomorrow? Are we likely to see fireworks, or will it simply be just a damp squib?
No, I think there's a lot. I've gone through the conference agenda already. There's a lot of work that they are going to deal with, both in terms of constitutional amendments that they have in the pipeline, as well as more than 40 resolutions that they have to deal with also. Many of them are about constitutional matters or developments, either internationally or within South Africa. So it's a very wide spectrum of matters that's on the agenda. That's obviously over and above the elections that you are referring to, which for them is going to be very important, because it will set them up for next year's national and provincial elections also.
Well, in as much as policy will be, one of the issues on the agenda at this federal Congress, we know that the ANC has, its favorite line is that the DA is so obsessed with the ANC. But are they correct, though? Is the DA a party that can be seen to be offering policy alternatives, or is it a party just obsessed in getting the ANC out of power?
Well, I think obviously as a political party and as the main opposition, that is one of their main considerations, main objectives, is to ultimately defeat the ANC as the governing party. And that's a natural democratic objective anywhere in the world where democratic systems are in place. But at the same time, I think where there is also the expectation that the DA should come up with more very specific, succinct policy positions which are not necessarily close to the ANC. I think what we've seen in the last number of years is almost a convergence of policy positions on many issues. There are these differences, like, for example, about black economic empowerment and as well as employment equity and other policies. But when it comes to, for example, economic issues, there are very strong similarities between many parties, not only the ANC and the DA, but some of the other parties also. And I think given the current situation in South Africa, the economic problems that we face, the energy matters the issue that's obviously a very huge issue, as well as local government and service delivery. These are all matters that I think the DA must develop a more distinct position than what they have done at the moment. And they have the opportunity at this conference to do that.
The country is going to the national elections next year, and talks of a possible coalition between the ANC and any other political party are growing louder. And the DA has been rumored to be in discussion with the ANC to form a possible coalition. Could this marriage of convenience spell disaster for the country, or is it simply a panacea in terms of charting out a new trajectory for the country?
Well, I personally believe that coalition governments are very important. We in South Africa have reached the stage of a transition period. The dominance of the ANC is not there anymore, not the same as it was in the middle 1990s or the 2000s. The ANC's majority has become very slim, relatively speaking. So the possibility for coalitions are inevitable. And I think for that reason, we have to start to look very closely at how to develop a coalition system at different levels. And there might be also different, for example, at local government level versus national or provincial level, different political parties participating in that. But that is the future for South Africa for the foreseeable future now. That it's going to go into coalition governments. And I think we need to take that as a given as a society and start to develop a new political culture which is not only based on that of contestation between the main parties, but also that parties will be able to cooperate with each other.
Well, in as much as the DA ostensibly sees itself as a coalition partner to the ruling party, the ANC, well, there's the EFF, of course, which is the third biggest party here in South Africa. And can the DA afford to underestimate the power and the influence of the EFF? I mean, considering that they've been at the forefront in terms of calling out the country's ills. And case in point was the shutdown that the party held last week.
Well, I think it's a little bit premature now already to talk about who are going to be the partners in such a coalition. First, we need to have the election, and the election is important because it will determine what will be the results, how many seats will each of these parties receive, and what will be the combinations of coalition partnerships that will be possible. So I don't think we should see about it that there's already talks about a formal agreements or arrangements between the main political parties. They first have to prove themselves to the public, and we as the voters will have to determine who we want to see in those positions. So these parties have rather to prepare themselves for the election, prepare them in the best possible way in terms of how they present themselves to us as the public. And on the basis of that, I think there will coalition formations or dynamics will appear. But I think in order to come to conclusions now about who are going to participate with whom is certainly premature in my view.
All right, Dr. Kotze, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. That was Unisa Department of Political Sciences Professor Dirk Kotze just sharing his thoughts on the Democratic Alliance as the party prepares for its elective Congress tomorrow.